Join us on the CEO's Laundry and discover the hidden reality of today's top CEOs. Each episode is an inspiring coaching session where a CEO gains insight and clarity to overcome personal, business, or leadership challenges. Learn to reflect and grow with the behind the scenes of these successful leaders. Hi, Thane.
Hi there.
How do you feel right now? Completely at peace? Bit nervous?
I feel a mixture of being at ease and peace and a little bit of nerves about what's about to come, but also looking forward to it as well.
Okay. I have that too. I always have that subtle nervosity before to
Yeah.
start a conversation where I have no idea what's going to happen. So I have a simple question to start together today, because we are here to explore. What would you love to create? If you listen to your heart and you listen to yourself fully, what is it that you would love to create?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I suppose there's two levels to my answer. One is what I'd like to create for myself personally, and maybe what I'd like to create out with me as a person. So personally, I'm trying to develop a balanced life where I'm still able to offer things to the world, my expertise as a leader, um, but also balance that with finding creativity in terms of writing and maybe writing more in the future, but also balancing that with looking after myself mentally, just my well-being. I'm a deeply committed Buddhist and interested in meditation, and I feel that as I turn 50, in many ways, I've always been deeply committed to that, but I'd like to bring more of that into my life. And if we're getting really magnificent in terms of what I'd like to achieve beyond myself, and I haven't shared this to many people, but I would love to be able to raise the money to start something that I imagine might be called something like the Aberdeenshire, which is the area of Scotland where I live, the Aberdeenshire Zen Centre, where people could come and learn to meditate, ideally for free or on a donation basis, and just create a space where people could come to learn meditation, but also just get a sense of community. We could have things going on there, like meals to celebrate certain things, or the Buddhist calendar, but also, a place just people could come to a nice day and sit in the garden, just a place people could come to, a space. So that's a dream. It's always ticked away in the back of my mind. So
Okay. Thank you for sharing something that you're not used to share with others.
that's okay.
What else would you love to create? If you could create another thing that could be a side of those two things or beyond, what is something that would feel good for you to mention right now? That the simple fact of mentioning it would feel good.
Yeah, well, I think probably tied up in all that would be my me and my wife and my family. Um, yeah, just be nice to think that well, my children are young adults now. They're 19 and 24. I'm just about to turn 50 in a few weeks' time. Um, Wife's a similar age. I won't say her age, or I'll get into trouble. But yeah, just nice to think, that journey. Certainly, very much me and my wife are doing that together, finding that lifestyle because she's a similar interest to me, not exactly the same, but would like to head in a similar direction. I'm not sure she'd want to be involved in the project I discussed, but she would help with that. But more the sort of building the balanced life, maybe even the a life, you would travel a bit or do different things. And yeah, so I suppose that'd be tied up in that. Certainly in building the personal happy life, we very much involve my wife in children maybe to a degree. I say to a degree because they're going to be heading their own way soon, I hope, and that's a good thing, not they're at an age now where they will probably make their own way, but I used to think they're doing okay as well.
Thank you for having the vulnerability and courage to share that today. This conversation right now can be a pivot point for you if you decide that it is. You mentioned creation around yourself and having balance in your life, a project that is in your heart and that you would love to go for. And you mentioned the relationship with your wife and the lifestyle that you have together. What do you decide among those three topics to focus on right now?
Well, I think the sort of the first one, the balanced life, is kind of unfolding at the moment in a positive way, and that is tied up with my wife as well. So we're heading in a more positive way there. It's maybe the other one that I haven't really given much thought to, the project idea. I say I haven't given much thought to it. It's been in my head just for years to some degree, and I've never really thought that through at any deep level. Whereas maybe the other one I have. So maybe that'd be a good place to start, because it's not something I've really. It's always been in me thinking about it, but I've never sat down and written anything down or really thought through at any deep level. The project to create, let's just call it the Aberdeenshire Zen Centre or Aberdeenshire Buddhist Centre, which I think would be an amazing thing if we could create it.
Okay, so we can explore that together.
Okay.
How would you feel if you had the time to reflect on your life before to die, and that project never happened?
I think, I don't know, if it was on my deathbed, it would be in my mind. It wouldn't be like a deep hurt, but it would be there. I think I never really tried to get that going, even though I had the idea for it. So it would be there. It wouldn't be a deep regret, but I think if I did get it going, though, it would, as I was dying, I would think, wow, I did start that, and I did do a lot of good, and I would feel quite good about that. So I can imagine that as well.
Okay. I love that, because you answer my second question before I ask it.
Sorry.
So that means that I feel the excitement, and yet at the same time, what you mentioned is that this is not the most important thing that comes to mind when we are living our last hours or our last days. It's not what matters the most, and you already feel this today. Yet that's something that would make you feel happy, grateful, honored, excited, proud at the end. So what's getting in your way?
I suppose what gets in the way at the moment is I had to sort of step aside from my CEO role due to sort of health issues. Although I'm still the vice chairman of the company, and so I suppose there's been a lot in other things at the moment, i.e., trying to work out what I'm doing in my sort of personal life. I.e., I've written a book. I'm very busy with the publicity around the book, which has been a pleasant thing, but a surprising thing is how many people have reached out, and that's taken up quite a lot of time, which again is a good thing, but it takes away from other things. And I'm trying to write a second book as well, and I mentioned earlier on, I'm suffering from this neurological condition, which is now not impacting on my life hugely, but still definitely there, which kind of curtails just how much energy I have in a given day. So in many ways, I'm kind of sorting out that, I suppose, the personal stuff first, and maybe once that is sorted, that's maybe, I feel then I can maybe move to this idea of the project.
Okay. You mentioned at the beginning about the project that what you would love to create is to raise money. What's the amount of money you have in mind? Even if it's not an exact number,
Well, there's probably different ways you could approach it. There's the absolute ideal way, and there's the maybe potentially more realistic way. The ideal would be you could get enough money to buy a property, which would allow you the rooms. So I imagine like a large meditation hall and rooms for meeting out with that, for having cups of tea, or maybe even one-to-one rooms, etc., for people to sort of speak to each other, hold sort of community events. So in my head, that's a bigger figure, a 250, 300,000 pounds upwards to buy this kind of property in the UK. Now, that might be harder to do in reality, but other ways that we could do it would be renting a space, which doesn't you don't have the same commitment, and we could then generate, because I think if you create the space, people come, and people come to make donations, and so you could actually have enough money to cover, I don't know, a year's rent, say. So you've got the building for a year at the very worst, and just try and generate it that way. If you create the kind of community spirit, I think you could. People would make donations, etc., and hopefully you could just extend the lease on the building that you've rented over the years. And that may be easier to get it off the ground doing it that way.
Okay. So I hear that's your plan B. So we'll put the plan B aside and we will focus on plan A. To have your own place, your own center where you can deliver the kind of meditation experience and peace that you envision, and you would like to offer people what you have experienced. I hear that's what's getting in your way is your own thinking. And before to jump into that, if you let your heart speak, not about what is possible, not possible, if you let your heart speak, when would you love to have that space running?
Well, I suppose my heart would say as soon as possible.
Mhm.
Yeah, realistic. I realize it can't be tomorrow, but if we could get it going in the next 2 or 3 years would be brilliant. It would be, um, yeah, soon, next 2 years, really.
I felt that when you say 2 to 3 years, I felt the two. And then you came back to the two. So it's
Mm.
like 20 next year. What I see from what you say about what's getting on your way is your own imagination. You mentioned that you're writing a second book and that you're creating yourself with that creative side through writing. So that takes time. And then what you envision with such a project is that you will have to allocate time toward that. And at the same time, you have a condition that, if I understand well, ask you to slow down and to really take time only for and with yourself when it's needed, and even before it's needed, to prevent
Yeah.
this needed moment from happening. What's getting in your way from that perspective is the notion of time. What if it didn't have to take that much time?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's going to take time, and it's not something that I'm 100% willing to pursue, having an activity that takes so much of my time and energy. Second thing is that if you use your time and energy, what I hear is that you're alone in this. There is a lot on your shoulders. So what if it wouldn't have to take a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you would have support, human support in this?
Yes, I mean, I think that is a very good point. And it is something I have given some thought to. Yeah, I have some thoughts around this. I've always sort of seen that. And you're right, in terms of on the shoulders, on my shoulders, yeah, I think to take this forward on my own would be very difficult. I had thought, is there a board could be created to try and make this happen, of like-minded people? There's not. Well, I think there's a big interest in Buddhism, but there's not that many people in the northeast of Scotland might just come forward for that. But maybe I'm wrong there. But I've also thought that board could be global. It don't have to be northeast Scotland. There may even be Buddhists around the world with a business sort of background who are all over the world, who might actually be interested in trying to get this started, just from an interest point of view. But yeah, that is something I have thought that this to happen. It probably doesn't have to be. It probably has to be shared. There may even be partnerships that one or two have come to mind. I won't say the organisations because they don't know I've thought of them yet, but there are organisations locally who may be looking for a similar space, and there may be the opportunity to share the space.
So how are you creating you having a strong desire in your heart and not pursuing it?
Yeah, I've been creating the space. I haven't been creating the space. You mean by that? I haven't. Yeah, yeah. It's a good question. Yeah, probably because at the moment it's just an idea in the back of my mind. It's one of these things that I realise that if I am going to do anything with it, I need to take it forward. And yeah, at the moment, I suppose I'm creating it's maybe a reality at the moment, but I realise this reality isn't forever. That promoting the current book is time consuming, particularly when you lay on top of the sort of neurological condition. But you're right. I think even then, it probably would be the wrong moment to start that right now. But it might not be that long until the right moment is created. In terms, I can see that I think the promotion of the book will slow down after because it only came out in December, the middle of December. So that's quite a lot of publicity planned and going on at the moment. But come the end of the summer, I think it'll be there, but it will be quieter. And also the second book hopefully will be written by then. And even that, I now know from experience, that goes into a quieter period because it then goes to publishers and it goes into a long line and it takes a while before it gets edited. And there is actually a quieter period where there would be time to reflect upon that. So I suppose I could be putting in place pieces of the jigsaw to come together at that time, potentially. I feel that somewhere at the moment I would feel more tense if I had another project as well. I would feel I have to give this justice first. So I almost need to feel that sense of almost a peace and groundedness that although the book's going to be out there for many years, I feel I need to give it a good start. And I think I would feel an inner turmoil if I was to start the project too early. Um, so I feel I need to almost compartmentalize and say, okay, I've given that its all. I've given the book its all. I've given it the momentum it needs to go out there in the world. Now I can. I think it's intellectual, but I also would feel that as well. That I need to be able to feel that in myself that I have given that time it deserves the book. And before internally, I think I'm ready to turn to something else.
Okay. So you feel a tension, kind of resistance at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's play a game for a minute, just to use our imagination.
Okay.
Can you close your eyes for 1-2 minutes?
Yes.
And imagine that it's the end of our conversation. You go back to whatever you planned for the day, and then you receive a phone call. A phone call of someone who got your number. You don't know them. They have read your book, and they were in the process for a few months already to build a center. And someone read your book in an organization that is calling you and then mention your book and then people have talked about you and you don't even know they exist. And so here you are today, 2nd of February, and you received that phone call this afternoon, and they want to meet you because they would like you to be involved in their project. They don't have everything ready, but they're on their way. How would that feel? What would you tell me if you call me tonight? Would be tomorrow morning for me. Would you send me a message on LinkedIn and you has to have another call quickly because you have something to tell me. What would you tell me?
I think there's no doubt I would be full of excitement, full of joy, full of I can't believe that these people are thinking the same thing as me. Brilliant. I'd be, delighted on a personal level to be involved. There'd be an excitement. There'd be a buzz. Yeah, I would be phoning you in great excitement to say this is, I can see this happening and I'm getting to play a part in it. And I would be very excited about it. I would feel, I wouldn't just be pleased. I'd be beyond pleased. I'd be very happy.
Okay. Would you love to be involved?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I'd love to have been asked. I would love to be involved, and I'd be delighted to meet like-minded people who are thinking the same thing. I think there'd be a sense of shared sort of community and shared desire to have something positive happen in the local area, and I would be really pleased.
Okay, so you see, the outcome is the same. The way to get there is different.
Yeah.
Your way is that it's going to take time, energy. There is tension in the body thinking about it because the circumstances are not aligned for you to do all the work about that. Then I bring in another way among an infinite number of ways. And suddenly you're full in right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is no postpone. It's not about later. It's like, hell yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So what's getting on your way within you to have this kind of scenario happening rather than the outcome being the result of 90 to 100% of your physical action having an outcome that almost require no physical action from you? So what's getting in your way from this kind of scenario happening?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think maybe internally it comes down to a few things. It's never come to a point where I've made it the priority, or at least a top priority. And I think that process is sort of the universe, and I understand that, and I know that when you do things like that, strange things can happen. People appear that can assist, but I haven't actually done that yet, So that's maybe something I need to consider. Do I open it up to the universe in a sort of as well as an intellectual sense, a spiritual sense as well?
So you mentioned, do I open up about this thing, this ambition to the universe? Which means that if we reverse that, I haven't opened up to the universe about this desire that is in my heart. That's consciousness expressing itself through me, and I'm blocking it.
Yeah.
And come back to a question I asked you before, but with that in mind, what would be necessary, what would be required of you in your state of being to open up freely the flow of that consciousness expressing itself through you? Because if you open the door, if you open the floodgates, that's effortless. That's outside of what you imagine about how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So what would be required of you? What is necessary in in your being for you to feel how you felt 10 minutes ago. Where 10 minutes ago, when you felt that excitement of that you call me tomorrow because this thing that you have no idea where it comes from just happened. Suddenly, you doing the book is okay. You having a condition is okay. It's like all of this is suddenly okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think I suppose it's bringing that into the heart of me spiritually and putting it out there and sort of asking the universe for help is one way that many people would look at it. And I realise that can happen beyond and below or outside the intellect. Yeah, maybe it's bringing it into the sort of core of my being and offering it up to the universe and asking for those opportunities.
Okay. So you talk about that using maybe. That's a thing that you can do. So that's a possibility. What will you do? And any answer is welcome. There is no good or bad, right or wrong answer.
Yeah, yeah.
What can you commit to doing right now?
I think at the very least, I don't mean that because this could be the biggest thing. So I don't mean I say the word least, but is to bring that into my center of my being and to offer that up. To say I have an intention to start this. It was interesting you pointed out maybe I wasn't really aware of using that language, but I obviously was. I don't doubt you. But maybe to commit to saying, listen, this is actually something. I think even just starting to see it or feel it and believe it is something I want to happen, rather than something that's just a minor idea. And I think slightly more than that, you could actually possibly. I think that would be a good starting point. Actually, maybe this starting point.
Will you do it?
I will.
Can I reflect back something to you?
Yes.
Since I mentioned that way, that possibility, you keep smiling. You're way lighter. The flow of your words is heaven. There is an alignment and ease in your being since we're in that possibility. What do you feel right now? How do you feel right now?
I feel good just now. I definitely feel, yeah, I feel lighter. I feel internally there's like an excitement. There's sort of even in my arms and my solar plexus has a bit of a buzz. A contentment. Yeah, I feel different, genuinely, from the start of the conversation.
What's the question you will leave that conversation with?
I will leave with intention. I think the first point is really, embracing that internally, probably more spiritually than intellectually. I think intellectually I could see it happening, but I think it needs more than that to happen. So I think, yeah, embracing that and putting it out to the universe. This is my intention, and help me make it happen. I hadn't realised until this conversation that maybe I was holding them back, and some of that's maybe with good reason, but it just helps us sometimes break that dam, if you like, and let things flow. So I think you've helped me to do that, and I'm excited to see where things go. So thank you very much for this. I've really enjoyed the experience, and I mean that.
Thank you, Thane. I appreciate it. I take your words, I receive them, and I feel them fully. And I loved our conversation. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye bye.